Good day, good night, whatever time it is. You're up here with me, and we're reading from 2 Samuel chapter 13. I believe we were at 37, but absolutely, I can already tell this is going to be a rough one. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur, and David mourned for his son every day. Notes, well, he mourned for Amnon, his firstborn. Verse 38, So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. Notes, he's longing for Absalom to return to him. And concerning Amnon, he washed his hands with it and said, okay, I'm going to try to work this out. Is what he's talking about whenever he's saying that he's comforted. Chapter 14. Now Joab the son of Zeruiah perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. Notes. Now we got a very, very big mistake right here in the text. The Hebrew word rendered toward should have been rendered against, for that is actually what its real meaning is. The king's heart was against Absalom because of the crime he had committed, even though David loved him dearly. Verse 2. And Joab sent to Tekoa, and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray you, feign yourself to be a mourner, and put on now mourning apparel, and anoint not yourself with oil, but be as a woman who had a long time mourned for the dead. And come to the king, and speak on this manner unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. Notes, this is a figure of speech saying, okay, I'm going to tell you what to go ahead and say. Verse 4. And when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and did obeisance, and said, Help, O king. Verse 5. And the king said unto her, What ails you? And she answered, I am indeed a widow woman, and my husband is dead. And your handmaid had 2 sons, and they 2 did strive together in the field, and there was none to part them, but the one smote the other, and killed him. And behold, the whole family is risen against your handmaid, and they said, Deliver him who smote his brother, that we may kill him for the life of his brother whom he slew, and we will destroy the heir also. And so they shall quench my coal which is left, and shall not leave to my husband neither name nor remainder upon the earth. Notes. There is a great force and beauty also in the description of her son as the last live coal left to keep the family hearth burning, hence her using such terminology. Verse 8. And the king said unto the woman, Go to your house, and I will give charge concerning you. And the woman of Tekoa said unto the king, My lord, O king, the iniquity be on me and on my father's house, and the king and his throne be guiltless. And the king said, Whosoever shall aught unto you, bring him to me, and he shall not touch you any more. Then said she, I pray you, let the king remember the Lord your God, that you would not suffer the revengers of blood to destroy any more, lest they destroy my son. And he said, As the Lord lives, there shall not one hair of your son fall to the earth. Notes. A famous preacher by the name of Williams says concerning this, The argument of the woman was very clever. It dealt with the secret wish of the king to pardon his son, and with the hindrance thereto which public opinion and the divine law presented. She skillfully persuaded him that exceptional provocation justified a setting aside of the law and a defiance of the people. And she got the king to pledge himself to this in the interest of her supposed son. Verse 12. Then the woman said, Let your handmaid, I pray you, speak one word unto the Lord, unto my lord the king. And he said, Say on. And the woman said, Wherefore then have you thought such a thing against the people of God? For the king does speak this thing as one which is faulty, in that the king does not fetch home again his banished. Notes, of course she was speaking of Absalom, so saying all these things that Joab had told her to say. Verse 14, for we must need die, and are as water spilt on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. Neither does God respect any person, yet does he devise means that his banished be not expelled from him. Notes, now what all this woman has said, if you hadn't been able to follow me, is this. She says death is not a penalty exacted as a punishment, but on the contrary, God is merciful, and when a man has sinned, instead of putting him to death, the Lord is ready to forgive and welcome back one rejected because of his wickedness. The application is very, very plain right here. The king cannot restore Amnon to life, and neither must he kill the guilty Absalom, but must recall his banished son. The argument is full of poetry and touching to the feelings, but it is not spiritually or scripturally sound. God requires repentance and change of heart, and there was no sign of contrition on Absalom's part. Well, at any rate, David fell for the ploy. Verse 15. Now therefore that I am come to speak of this thing unto my lord the king, it is because the people have made me afraid, and your handmaid said, I will now speak unto the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his handmaid. Verse 16. That the king will hear to deliver his handmaid out of the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. Then your handmaid said, the word of my lord the king shall now be comfortable. For as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and bad. Therefore the Lord your God will be with you. Notes. In other words, her story about her son was fiction. It had all been a ploy regarding Absalom. Verse 18. Then the king answered and said unto the woman, hide not from me, I pray you, the thing that I shall ask you. And the woman said, let my lord the king now speak. And the king said, is not the hand of Joab with you in all of this? And the woman answered and said, as your soul lives, my lord the king, none can turn to the right hand or to the left from aught that my lord the king has spoken. For your servant Joab, he bade me, and he put all these words in the mouth of your handmaid. To fetch from this form of speech has your servant Joab done such thing. And my lord is wise according to the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all things that are in the earth. Verse 21. And the king said unto Joab, behold, now I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. Notes. When dependence upon God and subjection to his word cease to govern the life, then it is easy for the wisdom of the world to entangle the heart. Therefore it was that this wise woman of Tekoa easily entrapped David to indulge his affection as a father rather than performing his duty as a ruler. I'll tell you flatly, Absalom should have been killed. The law of God commanded the death of Absalom, and the king should have obeyed the law. Had he done so, many lives would have been saved and much sin and suffering escaped. Had he obeyed the word of the Lord and put Amnon to death, still greater evil would have been thereby prevented. All this teaches the lesson which man is so slow to learn, that a Christian embitters his days by acting independently of God. Amid all the movements of this chapter, was the will of God sought? No, the Lord does not once even appear. And we must pick up in chapter 14, verse 22. Thank you, and God bless.